Hey guys, it's Ms. Simpson here, and I am just recording a quick video to help you guys with adding fractions. So, adding simple fractions was something that you guys covered last year. However, we are going to review that and cover that a little bit this year as well. We will start off by adding simple fractions and we'll work our way up to adding mixed numbers. Okay, so, there's several steps to adding fractions, and that is what sometimes makes it a little more complicated for people. But once you get the order of the steps down and you remember what to do next, the actual process is not that hard. But it's just learning that process. So let's look at this example. Okay. So if I have 7/8 and I am adding a half to 7/8, we first need to find what is called a common denominator. That means a common number that 8 and 2, it's a number that 8 and 2 have in common. Okay, so this is also known as the least common multiple. So I'm going to write that right here, least common multiple. So that means the smallest common number that they have in common. The reason why we're choosing the smallest one is because if we choose a number that is bigger, then that creates extra work for us. That means that at the end of the problem, we will have to simplify extra, or we would have to simplify when we previously wouldn't have had to do so. So, what is the smallest number that both 8 and 2 go into? Don't say 2 because 8 does not go into 2. Both 8 and 2 have to go into this number. If you're not sure, a good strategy is to write out your multiples on the side. So you have 8, 16, 24. Write out your multiples for 2. 2, 4, 6. Do they have a number in common yet? No, so I'm going to keep going. 32, 40, 8, 10. Do they have a number in common? Yes, they do. And we stop at the smallest number that they have in common. Next, you are going to make that your denominator for the rest of the problem. Okay? Now, we cannot just change the denominator because we want to. It still has to be equal in value. So that means we need to ask ourselves, what do we multiply this 8 times to make it an 8? Well, nothing changed. So 8 times 1 is what we multiplied this 8 times to keep it an 8 on the other side. Okay? Now, what do we multiply this 2 times to change the 2 to an 8? 2 times 4. Well, what we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. Okay? So now we're going to plug in those numbers. 7 times 1 is 7. 1 times 4 is 4. And then you're going to look at your new equation. Okay? We have 7/8 plus 4/8. Now we're adding apples to apples versus before when they did not have a common denominator. That's like trying to add apples to oranges. We need it to be adding the same denominator to the same denominator, okay? So 7 plus 4 is 11. We are not finished yet, okay? What is the problem with the fraction that's at the very end of this problem? 11/8. Is that in simplest form? It is simplified, but it's not displayed as a mixed number. We cannot leave it with the top being bigger than the bottom, with the numerator being greater than the denominator. So you need to ask yourself, how many times does 8 go into 11? And it goes 1 time. How many left over? 3 left over. Keep the same denominator. Is this in simplest form? Yes, it is. And so then we're finished. Okay, we're going to do another problem. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out all these blanks that we use for the problem. This is like the setup for fractions that we are going to use. We're going to solve them horizontally and just plug in the numbers where they need to go. Okay, so if you, each time that you have a problem like this, if you just draw these blanks out, this will help keep you on track. Okay, so once again, uncommon denominators, we need to make those denominators the same. So we are looking for what's called the LCM, least common multiple, the smallest thing that both 4 and 36 can go into. Okay, so can 4 go into 36? Yes, it can. It can. It can go 9 times. So sometimes your common denominator is actually one of the denominators listed. 4 goes into 36. 36 also goes into 36. So we are going to use that as our number. That is the smallest number they both can go into. What did you multiply this 4 times to make it 36? To change it to this 36. Multiplied it times 9. So you're also going to do that to the top. What did you multiply this 36 times to keep it that 36? 1. So you're also going to do that to the top. Now you're just plugging numbers in, right? 3 times 9 is 18. Notice that this is in the first blank. So it goes in the first blank on the other side of the equals. It has to be in that same position because when we get to subtraction, that can mess up your problem. 10 times 1 is 10. Okay, so now my new problem is 18 over 36 plus 10 over 36, which is 28 over 36. Are we finished? Every time after you finish a problem, I want you to ask yourself, is this fraction in simplest form? Every single time, ask that question. It is not in simplest form, and how we know very quickly by looking at it is both the top and the bottom are even. So when the top and the bottom are even, that means that at least 2 can go into it, right? Let's see what happens when we divide it by 2. Since these are bigger numbers, let's go that route. What happens when I divide 28 by 2? That is 14. What is 36 divided by 2? That's 18. Can I divide it by 2 again? Yeah. 7 over 9. Can I divide the top and the bottom by anything else? No. So I'm finished. It's the same process each time. It is just figuring out, what the common denominator is the hardest part, and simplifying. The rest is just the same process, and we'll just solve different problems with different numbers and do the same exact process. So let us know if you have any questions. This week, there's one assignment on this. However, next week, this is what we're mostly working on, but Miss Savannah will post a couple more videos on this as well. Okay? Thanks, guys.